Welcome to our first online presentation. Remember, you can watch these presentations as many times as you need to. And at the end of each presentation, there will be a check-in to assess that you got what you needed, the information that you needed from the presentation. We're going to be covering different topics in ecology. So today's main topic is going to be going over the levels of organization that we have in ecology. So we're going to be breaking down the environment. Let's begin. First of all, what is ecology? Ecology is the study of the interactions that occur between living and non-living things within an environment. In this picture, you can see some of those interactions. You first need to identify the three creatures in there. So we have this red fish, which is pretty obvious, known as a squirrelfish. We have two cleaner fish, the little blue ones here and here, as well as some coral. What interactions could you come up with between the organisms in this picture? Well, let's see if you got it. The cleaner fish, by name obviously, are going to be cleaning the parasites off of the red squirrelfish. And the red squirrelfish and the cleaner fish are both located under the core, which offers protection and food. So it's their habitat. We can see from this example that organisms are able to interact with each other in an environment. And these are different species interacting with each other. And they're all living in the water, which is a non-living factor. So both living and non-living things interact in an ecosystem and environment. This is what ecology studies, and this is what it's all about. But to make it more organized, scientists have to group things in specific to more general areas. So we classify living things into different kinds of groups, and you can see these groups on the side highlighted in green. We have species, population, community, ecosystem, biomes, and biosphere. In an ecosystem, these classifications are known as levels of organization. We go from the most specific level of organization, which would be the species, to the most general levels of organization, which would be the entire biosphere. So what we're going to be doing in the following slides is defining each of these levels of organization, which you will be required to know, understand, and be able to identify. So let's begin. A species. A species is a group of organisms that shares common characteristics. These organisms are able to breed, which means they can reproduce viable offspring. Viable offspring are those that can grow up and produce offspring that can have offspring, or babies that can have babies that can have babies. So here you'll see three different examples of species. I have a panda, a bald eagle, and a blue spruce. Now, pandas cannot breed with eagles. They are different species. So as cool as it might be to have a panda eagle or a bald panda, it's not going to happen. Species can only breed with organisms of the same species, and that's because of their DNA. Next level, getting a little more general, would be a population. A population is a group of the same species living together in the same area at the same time. For example, in this picture, you can see blue and gold snappers. These are found in the Pacific Ocean from Mexico down to Ecuador. Now, although they are all of the same species, a group of these snappers that live off the coast of Ecuador would be a different population than a group of the same species found off the coast of Mexico because they're living in different areas. So what we want to learn about a population is we're talking about a specific species in a specific area. A community. A community is composed of all the different populations of species that live together in the same area. It's all the living parts of an environment. So in this picture, you can see a deciduous forest community. So if we were to identify the different members or populations within this community, we would come up with something along this list: trees, deer, fungus, insects, birds, and bears. And you can begin to think about the different ways these organisms in this community might interact with each other. Because remember, that's what ecologists study. Now an ecosystem, getting more general. An ecosystem includes all of the living and non-living factors that exist in a specific community. So taking a look at this picture and the things I've added in, see if you can identify the living factors and the non-living factors within this environment. Let's take a look at the non-living factors first. If you recall, we have studied abiotic factors. Those are the non-living factors in an ecosystem or community. Abiotic factors are physical, non-living factors that are not living and never were. They did not come from a living organism. So the examples specifically from the picture would be found in this red circle: the sunlight, precipitation, temperature, wind, soil type, the available nutrients, the climate, all examples of non-living factors. Now let's take a look at the living factors, the biotic factors, which either are alive or once alive or came from something that was alive. Examples of the biotic factors we saw in the picture would be plants, animals, the fungus, the bacteria. These are all living factors, biotic factors from the environment. Now let's define biome. Biome you should be more familiar with now after your biome research project. A biome is a set of ecosystems that have similar characteristics that involve climate and organisms, the biotic factors. Biomes are defined by abiotic factors such as climate, geology, moisture, and soil type, and by the biotic factors of plants and animals. Once the abiotic and biotic factors begin to change, it means you're moving into a different biome. In this picture, we see the tundra. This is the world's coldest and driest biome. The average annual temperature is below 28 degrees Celsius. It's very windy and receives about the same amount of precipitation as a desert. So we actually consider tundras frozen deserts. And here's a map which once again you should be pretty familiar with at this point. This is a picture of the Earth's land biomes, and you begin to see that there are patterns. As we go from the north to the south, you can see how the biomes phase into each other. And then as you go from the equator down south, it begins to phase back to those cold biomes again. We'll be looking more into these phases and climate changes when we study climates. And of course, we can't forget our aquatic biomes. In the aquatic biomes, we have both marine biomes, saltwater biomes, and freshwater biomes as well. Finally, we have biosphere. A biosphere is the most general level of organization. All the terrestrial marine biomes blend together on Earth to create the biosphere. The biosphere represents the sum of all ecosystems on Earth. The biosphere contains all living parts of Earth, and therefore it is represented by the crust, the outer layer of our planet Earth. Okay, we have now gone through each of the major levels of organizations of ecosystems. I'm going to stop the presentation here. Recall, you can review this presentation as many times as you want, but tomorrow you will find a check-in posted. The check-in is going to review the information that was covered within this presentation. You are to take the check-in without looking at the presentation. Good luck, and I'll check in with you soon.